So today I'm going to be talking about comedians that I love, but specifically comedians who specialize in physical and facial comedy. Like me. So back in the 1910s, when burlesque stage stuff was transitioning into on-screen because film was becoming a thing, the people that were the most inspirational to me also happened to introduce and be the first of its kind. To survive back in that day, as a comedian, you had to make a name for yourself. You had to be yourself. If you are you, nobody else can be that. Talking like a politician. First off, Roscoe Arbuckle, aka Fatty Arbuckle. He surfaced in 1909, made a ton of short films. He went into the 1930s with his career, but somewhere in there was a woman that falsely accused him of sexual assault. It was later proved and confirmed that it was false, but his career stayed dead. Once you cry wolf, there's no going back, especially in this industry and even today. Sound familiar? Yeah. Fatty Arbuckle was the first dude to be physical on screen. It was happening a lot on stage, like I said. And then bam, this dude is freaking hilarious on screen. This guy was essentially the father to Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. Each of them were in movies with Fatty Arbuckle, so they experienced and studied him, and then went on to have their own careers in comedy and movie making. What helped their careers was the sexual assault charge from Fatty Arbuckle, because that kind of got him out of the way. I think that's enough about Fatty Arbuckle. I'm going to move on. Look him up if you want to. Charlie Chaplin. He hit the screen when? 1923. His movies delivered such incredible jokes. Better than you could pull off today. They were somewhat dangerous, but it was that they were more elaborate. They were magic tricks, just like magicians were doing on stage, and even started doing like George Méliès, who was a legitimate magician, and then started making movies. Charlie Chaplin proved that filmmaking and comedy was also a magic trick. It's illusionistic in nature. They couldn't be recreated or emulated. He stood out and he did his own thing. He even donned the mustache, the top hat, and the cane that was his iconic look. Thus Charlie Chaplin was born, where his career thrived for decades. He was this guy. Nope, he never did that. Buster Keaton, on the other hand, his first IMDb credit is 1917. I have such love and deep respect for Buster Keaton, because his stunts were death-defying. He stood out even from Charlie Chaplin. He relied on the stunt going right. As opposed to movie cinematic magic, he was like, this has to go right, or it means death. He was the Evel Knievel of the movies. If something went wrong, it meant serious or fatal injury. He told his crew and his cameramen, do not stop filming until I say cut or I'm dead. Serious commitment to the craft. Revolutionary. His stunts are so nerve-wracking to watch. These three comedians is where all this comes from. Two honorable mentions from this time period are Laurel and Hardy and the Marx brothers. I personally was not aware of them until my 20s, but I love and respect what they mean, how they stood out, and each comedian or group that I've mentioned has their own extreme fan bases that have spawned generations and generations. Past, present, and future. Sound about right? Yeah. It's because they decided who they would be and they stuck to it unapologetically. With the utmost confidence in their own ability, they have brought joy to millions. These three are goated without a doubt. I give them very high praise. And because of their success and influence, I am now doing what I'm doing today. That's because of them. They're like great-great-grandfathers to me in a way. So the next video I'm going to cover when the talkies hit. Now that was the mid-30s. I'm going to be talking about some big-time comedy groups like the Three Stooges, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, and Abbott and Costello. Thank you for being with me. Peace and love.